She walked away with a baby. She came back with an empire. Part 1. Chapter 1, The Perfect Lie. Sometimes, the cruelest betrayals come not from strangers, but from the ones who kissed your forehead and promised forever. The rain fell softly, like whispered warnings from the heavens. Emma Reynolds stood under the grey sky, soaked but smiling, clutching the pregnancy test in her trembling hand. 2 lines. 2 unmistakable pink lines. Her heart pounded, her breath caught somewhere between disbelief and euphoria. She wrapped her coat tighter and walked faster through the muddy trail behind her cottage, heading toward the old greenhouse, their place. The one Daniel had restored for her. He always said it would be the sanctuary where they'd raise their kids. One day he had whispered, tracing the arch of the wooden door, "This place will be full of little footsteps and bedtime stories." Today was that day. She pushed open the door, expecting to see him waiting, perhaps with a book or a thermos of hot tea. But the greenhouse was empty. Silent. Damp. A shiver crept down her spine. Emma's calls went to voicemail. All night. By morning, Daniel's phone was disconnected. His office line rang endlessly. His apartment was locked, the blinds drawn. Panic set in, but she fought it. Maybe something happened. Maybe an emergency. Maybe. By day 2, the panic turned to dread. Then her phone buzzed. A notification from her sister Chloe's Instagram. @ChloeReynolds_style. Can't wait to say I do to my forever love. #countdown to Mr. and Mrs. Emma's thumb trembled as she tapped the post. There they were. Daniel. Chloe. Arm in arm. Laughing. In love. In bridal attire. The caption said it all. One more day until forever. She nearly dropped the phone. The next day, Emma walked into St. Augustine's Cathedral in a daze. She was a ghost among lace and lilies, invisible in her sister's fairy tale. The ceremony hadn't begun yet. Guests fluttered around like butterflies, sipping champagne in the foyer. Emma made her way past them like a woman possessed. She wasn't invited, but she didn't care. At the altar, Chloe stood in a designer white gown, glowing like a starlet. And beside her, Daniel. Groomed. Grinning. Wearing the same tie Emma bought him for his last birthday. Emma stepped into view. The world seemed to freeze. Daniel's eyes widened. He didn't say her name. Didn't move. His expression was that of a man who'd seen a ghost. Chloe's lips curled into a tight smile. Well, Chloe said, walking forward, I thought you'd be halfway to Paris by now. Emma's voice was low, venomous. You knew. You both knew. And you still. Still what? Chloe leaned in. Stole your man. Emma, please. You were playing house. I was building a future. Daniel finally found his voice. Emma, You knew I was pregnant, Emma said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The entire foyer fell silent. Someone gasped. Daniel's face paled. Chloe's eyes narrowed. She's lying. Emma stared at them, her eyes dry. Too dry. She had cried everything out the night before. Congratulations, she said flatly. You're perfect for each other. Because I don't recognize either of you. She turned and walked out, leaving behind a storm of murmurs and flashes from camera phones. Back at her apartment, Emma moved like a machine. She packed what little she had into one suitcase. She left behind photos, memories, even the sketchbook of nursery designs she had drawn in secret. There would be no nursery. There would be no Daniel. Only the baby. Only herself. She booked the next flight out of the country. No goodbyes. No explanations. Just a note left on her kitchen counter. I loved you. I would have forgiven anything, except this. Don't come looking for us. She boarded a flight that night. 8 hours later, she arrived in London. It rained there too. At a small inn near Hyde Park, Emma sat on a cold bathroom floor, her hand on her belly. Hi, she whispered to the life inside her. You don't know me yet, but I'm your mother. And I promise you this, you will never need anyone who doesn't fight for you. A single tear slid down her cheek. Outside, lightning streaked across the sky. Inside, something hardened in her eyes. She wasn't the same woman who walked away from the altar. She was becoming someone else. And the next time Daniel saw her, he wouldn't even recognize the storm he helped create. Chapter 2, Sister, Saboteur. Envy is a slow poison, sweet at first, until you're drowning in your own lies. The bouquet lay wilted on the marble kitchen counter, petals bruised, a metaphor of the love story that had bloomed in lies. Chloe Reynolds sat in a silk robe trimmed with pearls, sipping champagne from a crystal flute in the sunlit kitchen of the lakefront house Daniel had inherited. Her wedding ring sparkled like it had something to prove. Daniel, meanwhile, sat across the table, silent, shirt unbuttoned, staring into his untouched coffee. Chloe glanced at him and smiled. You're not still thinking about her, are you? Daniel didn't answer. Chloe exhaled dramatically, swirling her champagne. Honestly, I thought you'd be happy. We finally got what we wanted. She made it easy, walking away like that. Easy? Daniel said quietly. She showed up at our wedding and told the whole room she was pregnant. Chloe's face tightened. Allegedly. You knew, he asked. You knew she was pregnant and didn't tell me. She paused for only half a second, long enough. I suspected, she said carefully. But Emma always dramatized everything. You know that. She probably made it up just to ruin the wedding. Daniel stood slowly. She didn't lie. How do you know? Because I know her, he said. Chloe's eyes narrowed. Do you? Once, years ago, they were close. Emma and Chloe. 2 sisters, born 2 years apart. Emma was quiet, bookish, soft-spoken. Chloe was all heels and eyeliner, commanding rooms since high school. Emma wrote poetry in the margins of novels. Chloe charmed the boys that Emma daydreamed about. And for a while, it worked. They were opposites who somehow completed each other. But then came Daniel Whitmore. Emma met him at university. He was studying architecture, she was majoring in literature. They met in a coffee shop. Their love was slow, sweet, awkward. The kind that made people roll their eyes, but secretly envy it. Chloe noticed. And Chloe did not like being the outsider in a fairy tale. Back at the newlywed home, Chloe clicked through her emails, then through the secured folder she kept on her private laptop. Hidden in plain sight was a series of documents, screenshots, manipulated text messages, staged photos. Every detail of Emma's downfall had been curated. It had started with accidental text leaks. Chloe had borrowed Emma's phone once under the pretense of needing to call their mother. In reality, she forwarded a few private messages to herself, conversations between Emma and an old flame, Completely harmless but easily taken out of context. Then came the rumors. The suggestion that Emma was having second thoughts. That she was scared. That she wasn't ready. Daniel, already stretched thin by financial pressure and doubts about his startup, had grown distant. Chloe moved in. Literally. She had offered to crash on their couch for a week. That week became a month. Then she started cooking for them. Cleaning. Listening. Supporting. Whispering carefully placed doubts into Daniel's tired ears. And one night, after a fight between Emma and Daniel, Chloe had crossed a line. She wore a white silk slip. She knocked on Daniel's door with trembling lips and tear-filled eyes. "She doesn't love you the way you deserve," she said. And Daniel, angry, drunk, and broken, believed her. Back in the present, Chloe walked through the garden barefoot, holding her phone. A text from the family lawyer confirmed that the Reynolds Trust had officially shifted Chloe to primary beneficiary status, citing Emma's disappearance. She smiled. Her inheritance was secure. Daniel was hers. The past was buried. Or so she believed. She called her mother. "Hi, Mom. Just checking in." "Yes, the wedding went perfectly." "No, we haven't heard from Emma." "I'm sure she'll come around once she's calmed down. You know how emotional she gets." She paused. "Yes, Mom. Of course I love her." She ended the call and dropped the fake smile like a dead weight. In the distance, the wind stirred the branches. Something in the air felt colder than it should have. 3 weeks had passed. Emma was gone. Not just emotionally or metaphorically. Truly, completely vanished. No forwarding address. No airport check-ins. No bank activity. Not a single post on social media. She had vanished into thin air, like a shadow extinguished at dawn. Chloe opened her email and typed a search, Emma Reynolds. Nothing. No updates. No location pings. No legal disputes. The silence unnerved her. Even Daniel began to notice. "Shouldn't we?" "I don't know, file something," he asked one night. "Like what?" Chloe said sharply. "She's not missing. She left. We both know that. Maybe she didn't want the baby after all." Daniel stared at her. "Don't say that. She's always been dramatic," Chloe snapped. "This is just her way of punishing us. She'll resurface eventually." But her voice wavered. Because deep down, she knew, Emma had never been the type to disappear without a trace. She was the type to cry, to write letters, to confront. And the silence meant something was coming. Something big. Across the ocean, in a glass-walled office overlooking the Thames River, Emma sat before a panel of investors. She wore a black power suit. No makeup. Hair tied back in a sleek bun. Her voice was calm, composed, lethal. "I'm not just here to invest," she told them. "I'm here to dominate." They nodded. Outside the boardroom, a woman named Evelyn Black stepped into a waiting car. The driver looked in the mirror. "Where to, m?" She gazed out the window, lips set in a cold smile. "Home," she said. Eventually. Chapter 3, Storm Child. She entered the world in thunder and rain, because peace was never promised to women like her. Emma stepped off the plane with nothing but a suitcase, a faded passport, and a baby growing inside her like a secret revolution. The London air was sharp and cold, slicing through her coat like judgment. Her boots were soaked by the time she found the shuttle to her temporary lodging. 7 months pregnant. Alone. No plan. But strangely, not afraid. The city didn't know her. The city didn't care. And that was exactly what she needed, to vanish among millions. As the cab sped toward a dimly lit hostel near Hyde Park, Emma cradled her stomach protectively. The baby kicked, strong and sudden. A small smile tugged at her lips. "You're a fighter," she whispered. "Just like your mother." Her first days in London were hard. Cold showers. Instant noodles. Nights spent wrapped in blankets that smelled like strangers. But it was better than looking over her shoulder in her hometown. She took a fake name at the clinic, Emily Brooks. Said she was a traveling student. No next of kin. No father listed. She wrote letters to the baby in a journal. Not to Daniel. Not anymore. But to the tiny soul growing inside her. "They didn't want us. But I will make sure you are never unwanted. You're not my weakness. You're my reason." Every day, she grew stronger. Every night, she stared at the ceiling, wondering if her child would have Daniel's eyes. His smile. His hands. And whether she could live with that. It was mid-November when the pain began. The sky outside boiled with clouds. London was drenched in thunder and sirens. Emma was alone in her tiny rental flat, heating a bowl of soup when her water broke. She screamed. Dropped the bowl. The sound of ceramic shattering on tile echoed louder than the thunder outside. The ambulance was late. Traffic. Flooded roads. So she walked. Yes, walked. Through sideways rain and howling winds, one hand gripping her belly, the other pressed against brick walls and iron gates as lightning sliced the sky. By the time she reached the hospital, her lips were blue. Her legs were shaking. Her vision swam. A nurse rushed her inside. "What's your name?" Emma gasped, breathless. "Emily. Emily Brooks." The labor was brutal. Nearly 12 hours. No epidural. No loved ones. No one to hold her hand. Just the relentless ache of becoming someone entirely new through agony. She screamed through contractions. Cried. Cursed. She remembered flashes of her sister's wedding. Daniel's stunned face. Chloe's lies. The way everything had been ripped from her like silk turned to shrapnel. But when the final push came, the room filled with light. And then, a cry. The most defiant, powerful sound she'd ever heard. It didn't sound like a whimper. It sounded like fire. A nurse placed the baby girl in Emma's arms. Tiny. Red. Perfect. With fierce little fists and a full head of dark hair. Emma looked into her eyes and froze. Blue-gray. Daniel's eyes. The storm outside raged louder, rattling the windows like an omen. Emma didn't cry. She just held her daughter tighter. 2 days later, Emma sat upright in the hospital bed, a cup of tea in hand, and her daughter swaddled beside her. The nurse approached with a clipboard. Still no father to list. Emma shook her head. No. Have you chosen a name? She looked down at the tiny face nestled against her. Lily. Simple. Elegant. Strong. The flower that grows through mud. The one that survives anything. Yes, Emma said. Her name is Lily. The nurse smiled. A beautiful name. Emma kissed Lily's forehead. She'll grow into it. That night, thunder shook the sky once more. Emma stood by the hospital window, Lily sleeping peacefully in the bassinet. The city was a sea of lights. She placed a hand on the cold glass and whispered to her reflection. "You will never know pain like I did," she said. "I swear it. I will build a world so safe, so strong, no one will ever touch you. Not your father. Not your aunt. Not anyone." She turned and picked Lily up, cradling her like treasure. "You're not just my child," Emma whispered. "You're my empire." And somewhere deep inside her, a fire ignited. She wasn't just a heartbroken girl anymore. She was a woman with something to protect. A queen with a child forged in lightning. And she would not lose again. Chapter 4, Building the Queen. She didn't rise from the ashes, she built a throne from them. 6 months after Lily's birth, the woman once known as Emma Reynolds stood before a mirror in a second-hand navy suit. Her once warm brown hair was now dyed raven black, twisted into a no-nonsense bun. Her soft features were hardened with contour and cold eyeshadow. Her posture had changed. Shoulders back. Chin high. Eyes like ice. "Evil in black," she whispered to her reflection. The name didn't just sound different. It felt different. Untouchable. Controlled. Sharp. No longer soft. No longer a sister. No longer his. She kissed Lily on the forehead, left a sitter with cash, and headed out the door. The world wouldn't hand her power. She would take it. Her first real break came not from kindness, but cruelty. Evelyn was working nights as a temp receptionist in a boutique investment firm, answering phones, fetching espresso, being ignored. One rainy evening, she overheard a conversation in the boardroom. A merger was collapsing. Someone had miscalculated a valuation. She slipped a note under the door with a corrected figure and a simple line. "You're about to lose $11 million. Call their bluff." The next morning, the firm's founder, Simon Graves, called her into his office. He was in his late 50s, silver-haired and cunning. Rumors said he'd once bankrupted his own brother. He smiled like a predator and spoke like a politician. "You're either dangerously bold, or very, very smart," he said, tapping the note. "Which is it?" Evelyn stared him down. "Both." He hired her on the spot as his personal assistant. Under Simon's cold mentorship, Evelyn transformed. He made her read balance sheets like bedtime stories. Wake at 4 a.m. for market openings. Attend brutal board meetings and silent dinners with men who underestimated her until she spoke. Simon didn't praise. He tested. One afternoon, he handed her 2 sealed envelopes. "One of these is a promotion," he said. "The other is a letter of termination. Choose the one you think you deserve." Without blinking, Evelyn picked the one on the left. Opened it. "Read aloud." "Effective immediately, Vice President of Strategy." Simon smirked. "Correct. That's what I like about you. You don't ask for permission to succeed." She rose through the ranks faster than anyone in the firm's history. In 3 years, she became the youngest executive partner. In 4, she had a seat at the table. With Simon's network and her relentless discipline, Evelyn built her own portfolio under the radar. She bought stakes in tech startups, failing retail chains, medical ventures. Always under the name Blackwell Holdings. Quiet. Controlled. Ruthless. The financial press began whispering about the elusive Black Widow of the boardroom, a woman known for killing bad deals and resurrecting broken companies. No one knew who she was. That was the plan. The name Emma Reynolds had been erased from every record that mattered. But Lily still called her mummy. Every night, Evelyn returned home to a now 3-year-old whirlwind of curls and questions. Lily was her joy, her heartbeat, her anchor. "Did you win today, Mummy?" Evelyn always kissed her cheek. "I always do." One evening, Simon hosted a private networking gala at the Shard. London's elite gathered in tuxedos and floor-length gowns. Evelyn wore a sleek black dress that shimmered like spilled ink. She didn't speak unless necessary, and when she did, people listened. As she moved between guests, a familiar name caught her ear. Whitmore Holdings. "A mess, isn't it?" a banker chuckled. Daniel Whitmore was the golden boy once. "Married that fashion blogger, what's her name?" "Chloe something," another said. "The Reynolds girl." The champagne in Evelyn's glass stilled. "Pity," someone muttered. "They burned through every investment. The company's collapsing. She's posting vacation pics while he's bleeding debt." Evelyn turned and smiled at the group, calm and lethal. "Whitmore Holdings," she said coolly. "Send me everything." Later that night, as London slept beneath fog and neon, Evelyn stood at her window and opened a dusty, forgotten box. Inside was the necklace Daniel gave her on her 23rd birthday. A letter he wrote but never sent. And an ultrasound photo of Lily, marked Baby R. She lit a match. The letter burned. But she held on to the necklace. It would be a reminder. Not of love, but of what she'd survived. The next morning, Evelyn called Simon. "I'm ready," she said. "For what?" She stared out over the Thames, the city at her feet. "To go back," she said. "I've built my kingdom. Now I'm taking back the land they tried to bury me in." Simon paused, then said, "Go. But remember, revenge is like leverage. Use too much, and it collapses the deal." "I don't want leverage," Evelyn replied. "I want justice." Chapter 5, Ashes of the Ibersons. They built their kingdom on betrayal. Now, the cracks are swallowing them whole. The house was still beautiful from the outside. A pristine white colonial on Lake Haven Drive. Black shutters, rose bushes lining the front walk, and a circular driveway big enough for guests to feel impressed. But inside, cracks in the walls. A faucet that never stopped leaking. Unopened bills stuffed in kitchen drawers. Dishes piled in the sink. And silence, thick, suffocating silence. Daniel Whitmore sat at the edge of the bed, staring at his laptop. The screen glowed with angry red numbers, $472,000. His hand trembled as he reached for his coffee, now cold. He took a sip anyway. Behind him, the door burst open. "Why didn't you tell me we're behind on the property tax again?" Chloe's voice cracked like a whip as she stepped into the bedroom, manicured hands clutching her phone. "I just got a call from our attorney." Daniel didn't look at her. "We're not just behind on taxes." Chloe narrowed her eyes. "What does that mean?" "It means, it's gone, Chloe. Whitmore Holdings. It's all gone." Chloe stood in front of the mirror, applying a second coat of highlighter under her eyes. She had a brand deal to record. A travel collab. Another morning routine with Chloe to film before noon. "I don't understand why you're always so negative," she said, not turning around. "You're acting like it's over." We just need one investor. A rebrand. Something fresh. There's nothing to rebrand, Daniel snapped. We've defaulted on 2 loans, and your luxury card just maxed out buying handbags and plane tickets. She spun on her heel. You think I'm the problem? I've built our visibility. I kept your name alive when your innovative business model collapsed. Kept my name alive. Daniel rose from the bed, eyes bloodshot. You turned our lives into a curated slideshow while the walls caved in. Chloe's face went cold. Maybe if you were half as strong as Emma. She stopped. Silence. Daniel stared at her like she'd just fired a bullet. Chloe tried to recover. I didn't mean. Yes, you did, he said, his voice hollow. You meant every word. He walked past her and slammed the bathroom door behind him. Later that night, Daniel sat in the home office, drowning in papers. A half-finished bottle of scotch. A rejection letter from the bank. An eviction notice for their studio lease. A printed email with the subject line: Blackwell Holdings interested in possible acquisition. He hadn't answered it yet. Instead, his eyes drifted to the top drawer of his desk. He pulled it open. Inside, wrapped in a torn envelope, was a necklace. Simple, silver, with a tiny book-shaped pendant. Emma's. He held it gently, his thumb brushing the grooves, remembering the way she used to tuck her hair behind her ear when she was nervous. The way her laugh always started with a sharp inhale. The way she said his name when he stopped. Pain punched through him. The kind that didn't fade over time. If anything, it grew heavier the longer he lived without her. And the baby. He had tried to convince himself it wasn't real. That Emma had lied. That she'd said it just to hurt them. But in his bones, he knew. There had been a baby. Their baby. And he would never know her. Downstairs, Chloe was live streaming. Hey babes. Just got the cutest new PR box from Solon Cosmetics. Let's do an unboxing together. Don't forget to like, follow, and... Her voice faltered as she caught a glimpse of herself in the camera. The lighting highlighted the fatigue under her eyes, the stress lines forming near her lips. She adjusted the filter. But the truth was harder to edit. The luxury lifestyle, the curated couple posts, the brunches with influencers, it was all paper thin. And paper burns fast. A notification blinked across her screen. Bank alert, transaction declined. She ended the live stream mid-sentence. Her hand trembled. Not from shock, but fear. Real fear. For the first time in her life, Chloe was standing on the edge of something she couldn't fake her way out of. Across the city, in a sleek penthouse overlooking downtown, Evelyn Black sat in her home office, legs crossed, wine untouched. Lily, now nearly 5, was asleep in her bed, surrounded by stuffed animals and fairy lights. On Evelyn's desk, the Whitmore Holdings portfolio was open. She stared at the screen, at Daniel's name. A broken man. Bankrupt. Backed into a corner. Chloe. Still faking smiles, digging the grave deeper. Evelyn leaned back in her chair, the city lights flickering in her eyes. They're right where I need them, she murmured. She clicked a button. Send offer, Blackwell Holdings to Whitmore Holdings asset buyout proposal. A whisper of a smile curved her lips. The past wasn't dead. It was about to be sold. Chapter 6, The Queen Returns. Revenge does not arrive with fire. It walks in wearing heels, smiles politely, and buys everything you ever loved. The town of Oak Ridge had changed. More coffee shops, a boutique hotel on Main Street, a wine bar where the bookstore used to be. The lake still glittered at sunset. The church still rang its bells every hour. But the air felt smaller. Slower. Like it hadn't caught up to the future yet. Evelyn Black stepped out of the black sedan in front of the town's business district wearing a tailored dove grey coat, heels that clicked like war drums on pavement, and sunglasses that hid the storm behind her eyes. No one recognized her. Not the florist who once made her prom corsage. Not the bank manager who'd once denied her mother a loan. Not the old teacher walking a dog on the sidewalk. They all looked. They all stared. But not one of them said, "Emma." And that's exactly how she wanted it. The Whitmore Holdings building sat on the edge of downtown, once a modern marvel, now a sad husk of peeling paint and outdated signage. The lobby lights flickered overhead. The receptionist chewed gum and avoided eye contact. Evelyn didn't flinch. She rode the elevator to the top floor with two assistants in tow, both wearing dark suits and wireless earpieces. Her presence was magnetic. Everyone felt it, but no one could name the reason. Daniel, unaware of who was about to walk through his door, was pacing behind his desk, muttering to himself. "No, no. We can't liquidate that asset. Not yet. If we lose the patent licensing." The door opened. She entered like royalty. He turned to face her, and stopped cold. Tall. Elegant. Confident. Unfamiliar. But familiar. She offered her hand. "Miss Evelyn Black, CEO of Blackwell Holdings. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting, Mr. Whitmore." His grip was hesitant. His brow furrowed, studying her face. Of course," he stammered. You look familiar." "I don't believe we've met," she said smoothly. "But I've been watching your company. And I'm interested in acquiring it." In the boardroom, Evelyn laid out the offer with surgical precision. Buyout terms. Asset absorption. Executive reassignment. Everything was dressed in velvet legal language, but the core message was simple: she would save him. For a price. Daniel looked over the documents with tired eyes. "You're offering almost double what we're valued at." "Why?" Evelyn smiled politely. "Because I see potential." Chloe burst into the room uninvited, wearing oversized sunglasses and a distressed designer blazer. "Daniel, why didn't you tell me?" She froze when she saw Evelyn. Her expression changed instantly. Confusion. Then suspicion. Her eyes narrowed. "We've met before, haven't we?" Chloe asked. "You were at that summit in Milan last year." "The tech gala." Evelyn turned to her slowly. "I attend many events, Mrs. Whitmore." "It's Miss Chloe," snapped automatically. Then caught herself. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. "Ah." Daniel stood between them like a man caught in a storm he couldn't see. "She's interested in acquiring the company," he explained. "She's offering more than we're worth." Chloe crossed her arms. Why would a major London investor be interested in a floundering company from a town that doesn't even have Uber? Evelyn met her gaze with frost. "I like fixing broken things. They tend to appreciate in value." As Evelyn left the building, Daniel followed her out to the sidewalk. "Miss Black," he called, catching up to her. "Can I ask, why now? Why us? We're not exactly an ideal acquisition." She turned to him, cool and unreadable. You remind me of someone I used to know, she said. His lips parted slightly. Someone good. She smiled faintly. Someone lost. Then she got into the car and vanished into traffic, leaving him standing in front of the dying empire he'd built on the grave of the woman he betrayed. That night, Chloe was pacing. Daniel had accepted Evelyn's offer. Out of desperation, yes, but with a strange eagerness. As if being near that woman gave him something he hadn't felt in years, hope. Chloe couldn't explain it. Couldn't name it. But something in her gut told her the elegant, unreadable Miss Black was more than she seemed. She pulled up her laptop. Searched, Evelyn Black. Blackwell Holdings. Nothing useful. Just press releases and conference photos. No birth records. No early career trail. No social media. She picked up her phone and dialed a number she hadn't called in a long time. Hi. It's Chloe Whitmore. I need a background check. Discreet. On someone named Evelyn Black. She just arrived in Oak Ridge. I want everything. Because deep down, Chloe knew. No one that powerful comes back to a dying town, unless they came to kill something. Back at her temporary estate outside town, a restored mansion now owned by a shell company, Evelyn tucked Lily into bed. The little girl looked up sleepily. Did you win today? Evelyn kissed her forehead. Of course I did. She turned off the light, walked to the study, poured a glass of wine, and sat before a massive digital screen displaying files. Whitmore Holdings. Chloe Whitmore. Daniel Whitmore. Reynolds Family Trust. She pressed a key. A photo filled the screen, Daniel holding Chloe's hand on their wedding day. Behind them, blurred and almost invisible, was Emma. But not anymore. She enlarged the image and whispered to herself. They stole my life. Now they're going to watch me take it back. Chapter 7, A Familiar Stranger. Sometimes, the most dangerous ghosts aren't the ones that haunt you, but the ones that smile across a table and pretend they've never met you. The next morning, Daniel arrived at the Blackwell pop-up office downtown. The space was modern, minimal, and far too elegant for a company doing charity work in a place like Oak Ridge. He was 10 minutes early. Evelyn Black was already there. She sat at a table by the window, sipping a black coffee, tablet in one hand, perfectly composed. A pale blue blouse, gold earrings, and those same eyes, the ones that unsettled him the moment he first saw her. She looked up as he approached. Mr. Whitmore, she said with a nod. Punctual. That's rare these days. Daniel sat down slowly, hands slightly trembling. I guess I didn't want to waste your time. Good. Because I don't like having it wasted. She slid a document across the table. This is a revised transition agreement. I've restructured the buyout to preserve your employee base, for now. Daniel blinked. You're protecting my team. Her eyes remained unreadable. I'm not a monster, Mr. Whitmore. I just make efficient decisions. That includes not gutting a company that could still be useful. There it was again, that tone. That almost warmth. Something just beneath the surface. It was like she was speaking through a filter, guarding everything, except her eyes. They flickered with something else. Not pity. Not judgment. Something deeply personal. Familiar. He leaned forward. Forgive me if this is too direct, but have we met before? She tilted her head, amused. Shouldn't you recognize someone you've met? Daniel frowned. It's just, your voice. Your expression. You remind me of someone I knew a long time ago. Someone important, she asked. He hesitated. Yes. She smiled politely. Then I hope I don't disappoint you. Across town, Chloe slammed her laptop shut. The background check had come back, empty. Evelyn Black had appeared in London 5 years ago, already wealthy, already connected. No public records before that. No school transcripts. No family ties. No origin. Ghost. And now she was here. Rich. Beautiful. Calm. And dangerously involved in her husband's business. Chloe felt something in her unravel. She stood in front of the mirror in her walk-in closet, trying on dress after dress for the gala that night. Nothing fit right. Her skin looked pale. Her face tired. Her smile, forced. She picked up her phone and opened Daniel's contact. Typed, deleted. Typed again. Who is she really? She didn't send it. Because she already knew the answer. Not the details. But the danger. That evening, Evelyn entered the Oak Ridge Heritage Gala like a queen returning to a kingdom that once banished her. Her dress was midnight black, sleek and shoulderless. Her hair in a low chignon. Her heels silent but authoritative. The room seemed to hush the moment she stepped inside. Daniel was already there, wearing a borrowed tux and the look of a man drowning in old emotions. He saw her. His breath caught in his throat. Then Chloe entered. Wearing red. A bold, defiant red. She walked straight up to Evelyn with a tight-lipped smile. "Miss Black," she purred. "I see you're settling in nicely. For someone who supposedly just discovered Oak Ridge, you seem to know exactly where to strike." Evelyn sipped her champagne. "I've done my research." Chloe leaned closer. "What do you want from us?" Evelyn didn't blink. "To clean up the mess you two made." Daniel stepped between them, trying to neutralize the rising tension. Chloe turned on him like a knife. "Is she the reason you've suddenly found your backbone again?" "I don't know what she is," Daniel admitted. "But she's not you." Chloe's eyes darkened. "No. She's not." Later that night, Daniel found Evelyn on the terrace, looking out over the lake. He stood beside her in silence for a long moment. "When I was younger," he said softly, "I used to come here with someone. We had plans. A life we thought we'd build. Then everything fell apart." Evelyn didn't look at him. "Did you ruin it?" He exhaled. "I thought I didn't. But now, I'm not sure anymore." Silence again. He looked at her profile. The shape of her jaw. The way she blinked when she was deep in thought. It was her. He knew it was her. But something about her wouldn't let him say it. She was right there, but wrapped in armor he couldn't pierce. "Who are you really?" he whispered. She finally turned to him. "Someone who doesn't believe in second chances." Then she walked away, heels echoing across the marble, leaving him alone with the guilt that had been waiting 5 long years for a reckoning. Back at the mansion, Evelyn stood in Lily's room, watching her daughter sleep. She traced the little girl's cheek with a soft hand, her steel exterior cracking just for a moment. Then she went downstairs, poured herself a scotch, and opened her laptop. A video played. Chloe, streaming. talking about skincare. Smiling like the woman who hadn't destroyed lives. Evelyn paused it. Zoomed in. Studied Chloe's wedding ring. The one Daniel gave her. The one he had promised to someone else. She closed the laptop. The game was underway. And no one, not Daniel, not Chloe, not even fate, was going to stop her from ending it her way. Because every broken heart deserves a comeback. If this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe for more emotional romance every week. Hit like, drop a comment, and ring the bell so you never miss a moment of betrayal, redemption, and powerful love. And don't keep the drama to yourself, share this story with someone who lives for twists just like you. Thanks for listening, and remember, sometimes the best revenge is becoming unforgettable.